back, everyone. I'm Claudia Kriviak, Vice President of Corporate Planning and Development at the Ontario Centres of Excellence, and welcome to this afternoon's Innovation Partners presentations. It is my pleasure to introduce you to a number of organizations who are partners in the innovation space here in Ontario. Each is either a department or an agency of the provincial or federal government, or they receive funding from the government. Together, they offer innovators and entrepreneurs a variety of programs, opportunities, and advice to help them develop their research and businesses. Our first presentation this afternoon will be from Michael Mahon, Director, VC Strategic Investments and Initiatives at the Business Development Bank of Canada. BDC is a financial institution owned by the Government of Canada and has been serving Canadian entrepreneurs for more than 65 years. They help more than 28,000 businesses reach their full potential. From over 100 offices across the country, BDC promotes entrepreneurship by providing highly tailored financing, venture capital, and consulting services to entrepreneurs. There will be an opportunity for questions at the end of Michael's presentation. Please join me in giving Michael a warm welcome.
Thank you, Claudia. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I'm with BDC. More specifically, I'm with BDC Venture Capital, so that's going to be the focus of my presentation today. Actually, an overview of BDC VC as an entity, but also the Canadian venture capital market. I am from Newfoundland. I have a tendency to speak fast. If I speak too fast, wait, don't let me go too far. So, jumping right into it, first of all, to understand the presentation, you need to understand what is venture capital. If you look at the screen, I'm pretty sure this was photoshopped, but it is pretty scary when you look at it. And in many ways, that's what venture capital can be like. It's basically a highly specialized form of high-risk investment, essentially equity investment in early-stage technology companies, whether it's life sciences, IT, energy, clean tech. Not always technology, often focus on innovation, but still usually at the very moment of formation of a company or shortly thereafterwards, and hoping to build these companies into global leaders. So with that, what is BDC Venture Capital? There's a nice little tagline there, helping to transform great innovation into great companies. So about us, BDC Venture Capital is part of the the Business Development Bank of Canada, which is a Crown corporation, meaning we're wholly owned by the federal government. We're actually the largest and most experienced VC across the country. More than $1 billion under management, 300 years of collective experience, and just about 3 decades in operation. We do both direct and indirect investment, meaning fund investments, IT, healthcare, energy, clean tech companies. We have offices across the country from Vancouver through to Montreal, and relationships with other partners across the country as well. And essentially, what we're trying to do is to play a leading role in supporting Canadian startup ecosystem and also the industry building initiatives. Every organization, every presentation from a bank needs an org chart, so here's the requisite org chart. Essentially, we have 3 distinct groups. We have our direct investing teams, like I said, which are IT or software, energy, clean tech, and healthcare. And essentially, these operate pretty well the same as any other venture capital firm would across the country. They're structured as individual funds, they're capitalized individually, and they make their own investment decisions based on their strategies and portfolios. We reorganized a couple of years ago, so we have a portfolio of companies from that time. And then there's the group that I'm a part of, our indirect team. Like I said, BDC is an investor in a number of venture capital funds across Canada. And there's my group, which is Strategic Investments, which is more of an ecosystem play, looking to play a leading role in the startup ecosystem across Canada. So how do we invest? BDC is a Crown corporation. We have a complementary role in the Canadian financial markets. When it comes to venture capital, it doesn't necessarily mean taking more risk or doing crazy things. It means emulating and being closely in line with the private sector, because most often when you're investing in venture capital, whether it's directly into a business or indirectly via fund investment, you're co-investing alongside with others. So essentially, we try to be a very good co-investor in the market, and I believe we've done that. At the same time, we are very selective. Last year, in terms of our 3 direct portfolios, we invested in 16 new companies. You know, the rule of thumb, you see 1,000, you invest in 10. You know, when a VC fund chooses to make an investment is based on their investment strategy, what they think the prospects are, as well as their existing portfolio and what the needs are of that portfolio. So later on, I give you a little bit more information about you know, some of the criteria that we look at. But basically, BDC is there from every stage of a company's development. Traditionally, we've been an early stage investor, but once you make your first investment, you can be guaranteed you're going to have to make follow-on investments down the road to see that company through to success at the end. Unfortunately, not everyone is successful, but we've had some great successes recently in which we've exited for companies such as Q1 Labs, Radian 6, and the like, which have been actually the Deal of the Year awards for the Canadian Venture Capital Association for the past couple of years. So when we're looking at directly investing in companies, there are a number of things that we look at. You know, I'm not going to go into detail on them all. Each fund has its own strategy and very specific things they're looking at, but these are pretty generic for any venture capital fund. You know, first of all, it's got to be a real business with a distinct and sustainable competitive advantage. There has to be a technology platform of some type. It's not always, you know, cutting edge, bleeding edge technology itself. Often it's the innovative use of technology, innovative business models, and the like. One example of a BDC investee is a company called Beyond the Rack in Montreal, Quebec. Beyond the Rack is essentially an online retailer. Its technology is generally available elsewhere. What's innovative is how they've applied that technology, how they do it, and that's the growth prospect behind the business. Always, probably the most important thing actually is the team behind it. Highly committed, passionate, entrepreneurial, you know, driving. They want to make their business the best business in the world. Of course, the clearly defined, realistic business plan. Although business plans by nature, I think, you have to be somewhat skeptical, but you want to see the vision and the drive to get there. But probably the most important thing after, I think, the team is the market large enough to sustain this business? Other competitors, is it large enough and attractive enough for financial investors? BDC venture capital and the other venture capitalists that would invest in that deals, what they're looking at the end is a return on investment, and that's why the business should be leading to a merger, a strategic acquisition, or IPO. They have to get a financial return on that investment. How do we do it? We do it in 3 ways. We invest directly in businesses. Like I said, we have a healthcare team, we have an IT or software team, and an energy and clean technology team. There are partners, investment partners in those teams located across the country. We have roughly about, I think it's 30-something investment professionals across the country. We also invest directly, or we also invest indirectly, which means we make fund investments. So as a venture capital fund, we invest in other venture capital funds. These become our co-investors in the market, and they go off as well with their own investment strategies, their own ideas, and invest in companies. We're the largest by far across Canada, over 29 active investments for almost $500 million. And on average, when we're committing to a venture capital fund, we're putting in about $20 million over the life of that fund. So although we're doing, we're very active ourselves with our own direct investments, we play probably an even larger role with what we enable indirectly across the country. And what my team does, we invest in certain new strategic areas. We're trying to help develop and sustain or catalyze the startup ecosystem in Canada. So we've done things like investing in super angel funds. Version 1 Ventures in Vancouver is a recent example. We just recently invested or committed $10 million to the Atlantic Canada Regional Fund, which is now known as Build Ventures out of Halifax. And what I spend a lot of my time on is working with accelerators across the country. We're either an investor in or funding partner of 4 accelerators across the country, and for the best graduates of those programs, we've made 39 investments into companies emerging from those investments across the country, with more to come. So all around, I think, a pretty broad approach. And so now the Canadian venture capital landscape, past, present, and future. Not too long ago, essentially, I think that's a good illustration. Venture capital was seen as a train wreck in Canada. It is a market that is recovering. People look to the United States and say, why aren't we like that? Why aren't we like Silicon Valley? Silicon Valley's been around for roughly 40 years, and the venture capital market in Canada, arguably, much less than that. Unfortunately, the venture capital market in Canada has lost money for the past decade. And so financial investors are not exactly impressed by that. That being said, the role of venture capital in fostering innovation and productivity and the like is very important. And so that's where the role of BDC comes in. There's been a lot of initiatives, private sector and supported by provincial and federal governments over the last few years. And essentially, and today we're starting to see some improvement. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're getting there. For the last little while, 12, 18 months, maybe 2 years, there's definitely been a renaissance, in my opinion, in the early stage startup space. I'm not saying that startup funding is easy to find in Canada. It's not. It's not easy to find anywhere, quite honestly. It's a matter of supply and demand. But there are a number of factors for it. We're lagging the U.S., but we are learning from them and following closely on their heels. So lean startup, incubators, accelerators, very important, and what we're trying to help with is the creation of new early stage investors and the like. And then entrepreneurs who've been successful, the guys from Q1 Labs, Radiant 6 and the like, who make a few bucks, and then they put that money back into their local communities as angel investors and the like, and helping to create the next generation of entrepreneurs. We need a lot more of that, actually. So, 2013, last year was the highest year in anyone can remember in terms of actual venture capital investment in Canada, but also an amount of capital that was also fundraised by the venture capital funds. We think that the Canadian venture capital funds themselves are starting to deliver good returns, or they have the prospects of delivering good returns. And the Canadian VC today is very different from the Canadian VC of 10 years ago. Maturity experience, usually a lot of operational experience, domain expertise, and a lot of interaction with VCs in the States and the like, and so we all learn from those. And more importantly, probably in Canada, the macro trends across the sectors we follow, software, energy, clean tech, there are amazing things happening, and they can become the foundation for real businesses that can go off and become global leaders. And today, you don't have just to stick and work in Canada. Increasingly, the startups we fund are being born global. All that's nice. There's still concerns as to the capacity of the ecosystem itself to provide continued funding to the highest potential companies. It's not easy to get capital. I know there are people here in the audience who work closely with startups around Canada, and they can attest to that probably personally. But there is funding available for the highest potential, and hopefully they'll get it and go off and become global leaders themselves. And I'm coming up to the end. Basically, there's a few things we're looking to do going forward. Recently, something to be very appreciative of. The federal government announced $400 million to stimulate the venture capital market in Canada through a combination of creating a number of fund-to-funds as well as topping up certain funds that are already in operation. Those are great things. I think they'll have a real impact at what we'll see down the road and the ability of companies to get funding. We're playing a support role with that, but those will be going to money will be going to the private sector. My team was recently directed to provide $100 million in support of the early stage ecosystem for activities either directly or indirectly support business acceleration, so we can basically do more of what we've been doing with partners such as Extreme Startups, Hyperdrive, Founder Fuel, and GrowLab, in Vancouver. Can't forget those guys. And essentially what we're trying to do is just be more of a partner. We can't solve the problems, but we can try and be a good partner, a good co-investor in the ecosystem to develop those relationships and to help Canadian companies. So that's it, a bit about BDC Venture Capital. Fast and furious, I know. If there's any questions at all, I'm happy to take them. And the mic is open.
Hi. Will you provide venture capital for private companies not involved with the extreme startups, with the OCEs, with the RICs, with the institutions?
Yes, for sure. Like I said, we have 3 direct teams: healthcare, IT, software, and energy clean tech. And basically their business is making investments in private companies,
Thanks.
Canadian companies.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, you had a question?
Hello, my name is David Smith. I have two questions. One is the presentation available online?
Answer, Claudia.
Thank you very much. And the second is, do you support enterprises that are non-standard, i.e. cooperatives?
No, right now, actually, BDC is mandated underneath a federal law called the Business Development Bank Act of Canada. And unfortunately, we can only invest in Canadian corporations that are operated for profit. So we're looking to change that, but right now we can't invest or lend to those type of companies.
Thank you very much.
If anyone has any questions, I'm here speaking today about BDC Venture Capital, but if you go to our website, www.bdc.ca, there's a wealth of information about BDC's other activities, which are lending and consulting, subordinate financing. But if any of you are entrepreneurs or have questions about small business, small medium-sized businesses, there's all kinds of useful information available there as well. That's it. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to thank Michael for his presentation, and in a few minutes we will hear from the National Research Council. How do you pronounce your last name? Hubert or?
Hubert.
Hubert, okay, great. All right, great. Okay. Sure. Okay, our next presentation is from the National Research Council, and our presenter is Manfred Hubert, Director, Ontario St. Clair Region for the National Research Council's Industrial Research Assistance Program, more commonly known as IRAP. The National Research Council is the Government of Canada's premier organization for research and development. Working with clients and partners, they provide innovation support, strategic research, scientific, and technical services. Manfred will be available for questions after his presentation. Please welcome Manfred.
Thank you, Claudia. So I'm going to start a little bit backwards here in my presentation. Claudia said I'm with NRC, and NRC has certainly been in the news lately, and we are a division now of the National Research Council. So I'll start off the presentation talking about IRAP, which is the Industrial Assistance Program, and helping SMEs grow through innovation. So what do? Well, we help firms, or we assist firms to develop, adopt, and adapt technologies and incorporate them into competitive products and services to be commercialized in a global marketplace. So I think the important part is that we're working with companies to try and commercialize new technology, new products, new services. We've been around for 65 years now, I think, so in one form or another, we've been evolving and changing, and sometimes hard to keep up with exactly what we are doing and what we are. So the business model, sort of, on the bottom half of that, what we're trying to do is we're trying to elevate companies to go from one position where they're at to their next position, to improve them, to increase their sales, to increase the number of employees they have. And so in the bottom part, there are some funded vehicles that we use. The top part really talks about different types of services that we provide through our field advisors, which are industrial technology advisors known as ITAs, many. Some of those in the past have been mainly unfunded activities, more in advice, but some of those we now fund as well, since our mandate has broadened. For instance, market assessments and intellectual property, we do now provide some funding for clients, which we didn't in the past. The traditional programs like funding innovative or development projects with companies has been our traditional sort of model where we provide non-repayable contributions to companies. I'll talk more about them later on. So the so-called trusted services, which are ones that are non-funded contributions, essentially, where the ITAs, or through either their networks or their personal networks, provide networking capabilities, advice to clients, international linkages. We actually have an international component to the IRAP program now as well, which connects you to Eureka and probably a number of other nations that we have trade agreements with. You know, we do a lot of project management, and in some cases for small companies, this provides some information that they haven't had in the past, and they really appreciate that through the ITAs. So in terms of our financial support, we provide, of course, contributions to firms. Now, really, to qualify for a contribution as a firm, you only have to be incorporated. However, there are some restrictions. You know, you have to certainly satisfy the ITA that you have a good business case, that there's something that, you know, that there is a market for something that you want to, that you're trying to develop, and not just come with an idea saying, well, you know, give me some dollars so I can just go ahead and develop this. So there are some, we don't fund everybody, and you'll see that in the next slide. We do fund nonprofits. So all these companies that we give direct funding to are for-profit companies. We do occasionally and fund nonprofit organizations, either through partnerships or directly. They may be doing some type of service. These services have to be focused to SMEs, but they may be doing some service that we might not be able to do through our terms and conditions from Treasury Board. So therefore, we fund them to carry out those activities. Normally, we try and direct companies to those organizations, and then hopefully, as a result of that activity that they're doing with that nonprofit, they may come back to IRAP and engage in, say, some kind of product development or whatever it is. On behalf of HRDC, we also administer the youth employment program. That is, we provide a company with funding up to $30,000 if you hire a graduate, a recent graduate from a community college or a university to actually do something that he was trained for. Okay, so in other words, if he's a software developer, he writes code, he doesn't assemble computers, in a sense. So, and it's a little bit of a liberal program in a sense that if somebody's been working for 2 or 3 years after graduation, but not directly in something he was trained for, but does come with a job which is closer to his training, that still qualifies as a recent graduate. And then lastly, we're in the last year of a pilot program, which is the digital technology adoption for increasing your productivity. That program basically will finish at the end of this year. Whether it will be renewed or not, I don't know. And again, it provides funding for mainly the implementation of some productivity enhancement. For instance, if you want to introduce the new ERP system into your company, we don't cover the cost of buying that ERP, but the training that's required for the company to implement that is something that we would cover. So here we can see, you know, we're a national program that's delivered locally, so across the regions, each province, they're aggregated into 5 regions. So, you know, all of your Atlantic provinces are under Atlantic Canada IRAP, and then there's Quebec, there's Ontario, there's Western, and there's Pacific. You can see that this data is 2 years old, so at that time we did about over 9,000 clients, of which roughly 20% of them were funded. And you can see that Ontario does 30% of the clients across the country. Unfortunately, our funding from the total pot is not 30%, it's less than that. And typically, a majority of the companies that work with are under 50 employees. Probably the sweet spot for a lot of our investments, a lot of our companies which maybe have from 10 to 30 or 40 employees, they probably have some revenue, as none of our programs provides total funding for a project. Company still has to have some funding available and has to convince us that they can probably get some money to commercialize the product. But So you can see that roughly 1 in 5 of the clients gets funding. The rest are basically getting advice and other services from IRAP. In terms of the technology sectors we work with, we cover everything across the board, but we certainly have probably 1/3 of all of our programs that are ICT. Of course, ICT covers a very broad spectrum of technologies, but that really represents the main part. Again, I think the IRAP program is assessed every 5 years by some independent panel, and and discussed. They go to industry and ask them what are things that we've done. So our impact, it says that most companies, 90% have increased their technical knowledge and capabilities, because a lot of our programs cover the cost of labor. So in many cases, companies hire highly skilled people to help work and develop the technology or the product. So therefore, their technology capability definitely improves. 2 out of 3, roughly, companies say that we've increased their firm's capability of production or service provision, and or helped commercialize a product or technology, or have increased their firm's domestic market share, or have enhanced their capability to conduct research and development. And a number that's been, like, for every $1 that IRAP is invested in a company, is generated $10 in revenue and sales. So our budget last year was $200 million, so you can roughly say that $2 billion economic activity. Now, some of you may have heard of a new offering that IRAP has, and it's called a concierge service. At the moment, it's a probably elementary concierge service, but it's improving. This came about because of most of you have probably heard of the Jenkins report, which looked at the support. There was a review of federal support to research and development, and they indicated that SMEs have a real hard time wading through the minefield of all the kind of support that they might get, and who to go to, where do I call, how do I? So they're suggesting that there would be a concierge service a company could easily connect to that service through, say, a telephone number or maybe a website, and they would then be directed to the most appropriate funding or advice for whatever they were after, rather than having to go and look through a bunch of books. So this was reaffirmed in the budget of last year, where not only our budget was doubled, but we were instructed to also create this concierge service. So that was sort of brought in at the beginning of this fiscal year, which was in April. There is now a number, and we're using the Canadian Business Services as leverage for that. And you now can call into that one service. We have dedicated staff that can help determine what information that you're after and help you direct to the best source for that. Now, we're hoping that over time, so it's coming in on a slow, sort of gradual basis, but we're hoping probably by this time in next fiscal year, we'll have put the full impact of this and hopefully have some online capacity or web capacity to be able to help you and get you the answers as quickly as possible. Okay, so now, last but not least, I do want to talk a little bit about NRC, and this is the new NRC, and which was in the news recently. And of course, NRC has now changed their mandate, I guess, and their vision, and now they want to be the most effective research and technology organization in the world, stimulating sustainable domestic prosperity. Not to say they didn't want to do that before, but they've reorganized themselves. And they want to be a key player in Canada's innovation system, and the new NRC is Canada's engine for industrial innovation, which is quite a bit different to what they were doing before. As you know, they want to generate more value from federal investment in R&D. They want to increase productivity and competitiveness for Canadian industry. They want to help create a higher standard of living and better quality of life for Canadians. And that has caused this reorganization of NRC. Many of you remember all of the institutes that NRC had, and they've been reorganized. There's no more institutes. They've been reorganized among 4 divisions. And you can see IRAP, is one of those divisions with their portfolio, which is the different regions. So we have 4 divisions: emerging technologies, engineering, life sciences. They're grouped further into several portfolios under each division. And then each of these portfolios, some of them are recognizable. The measurement science and standards has been there for a long time. Aerospace, construction has been there. Surface transportation. But each of them has a number of programs within the portfolio. So they've been separated down. Each program had to have a strong business case as to how they were attached to industry, so they could have some industry that drives them, because part of their revenue and their operating budget comes from doing research with or development work with those industries to recover their costs. Otherwise, they won't get paid, so they got to start doing some of that. So you can see the relationship in the past between IRAP and the rest of NRC was somewhat a fair amount of a wall between us, because they were doing research in a sense, we were doing more applied and development work. But now, because of our conduit to most of the companies within Canada, through our ITAs and we would probably be the lead organization to try and introduce companies who might want to use the expertise. And there's a lot of expertise that resides within the organization. And hopefully over a period of time, that would be something that could be leveraged to companies who need to have specialized, basically could rent or subcontract a group from NRC to do some fairly good development work for you. At the bottom is, in the yellow they also have 4 national flagship programs. These are programs considered of national importance that have a number of industries. They're funded 50% of the total funding of that. Each one of those programs comes from industrial sources. So they include printable electronics, industrial biomaterials, algal carbon conversion, and wheat improvement. And they will go on for a period of time and then finish, and there will be some new flagship programs under that model. And the impact will be measured by client success and the return on investment of federal investment return. So hopefully there'll be enhanced productivity, high-quality jobs, increased sales from commercialized technologies, and they'll stimulate, hopefully, increased business enterprise expenditures on R&D, which Canada lags significantly in the developed countries, and help companies get global participation and market share in targeted sectors. Thank you. That's it. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer any questions if anybody has them.
I wish to sell services to people who have IRAP grants. Can I get a list of who has an IRAP somewhere from the NRC?
All IRAP grants, that are above $25,000, where we've invested more than $25,000, are listed on a website. And you can go into that website. It's publicly
Along
available.
with contact info and that kind of thing.
I don't know what contact info is on there. It gives you the name of the company. It gives you a short summary of what they're doing and what the IRAP investment is.
Okay, thanks. I had another question also. It wasn't really until your talk that I realized that IRAPs seem to have a very strong, almost educational component. You're actually trying to foster absorptive capacity within business corporations to be able to do high-tech work, for example. Is there a possibility for people who receive IRAP grants to be able to spend some of that money working, for example, in collaboration with universities?
You can certainly do if you want to use a university group as a subcontractor, right. That's quite plausible under a project. All you have to do is get a proposal from them. That will be part of the work that needs to be done, and and that would be part of your proposal.
But there's no other kind of special arrangement. It's just one of any number of subcontractors.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned that the IP had changed. In the past, IRAP never paid for legal bills for patent filings or copyrights or trademarks. Has that changed?
We do pay for, we can pay for first filings up to about $25,000.
Really? How long has that been in place?
Oh, let me see, probably about 3 years now, because, we introduced a streamlined proposal form, which for projects that are under $50,000 called the accelerated review process, ARPs in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
That allowed us it expanded the kind of things that we could do under our T's and C's, okay?
Can it include U.S. patent lawyers or just Canadian?
I think it's only Canadian.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to thank Manfred for coming to Discovery to present to us today. In a few minutes, our next presentation will be from an organization that is familiar to many of you, including myself, the Ontario Centres of Excellence. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our next Innovation Partner presentation from my colleague at the Ontario Centres of Excellence. I am pleased to introduce Bob Civak. Bob is Senior Vice President of Business Development Operations at OCE. OCE drives the development of Ontario's economy by helping create new jobs, products, services, technologies, and businesses. In partnership with industry and academia, OCE co-invests to commercialize innovation originating in the province's colleges, universities, and research hospitals. If you have any questions, there will be an opportunity to ask the questions at the end of the presentation. Please welcome Bob Civak.
Hello. Hi, and good afternoon, and thanks for everybody attending, and hope you're all enjoying the show. It's interesting because I was reviewing my slides 5 minutes before coming in here because we have like 6 slide decks because of the minister's various announcements of programs, so I wasn't sure what programs I was going to talk about. So anyway, I'm going to give an overview of kind of everything in one quick snapshot, and hopefully I'll have some time, but this is about a 20-minute presentation. I'm going to try to do it in 10. So away we go. I advance by doing this, right? Okay, I'm not going to dwell on the whole history of the Center of Excellence. Those of you who are at the lunch, you saw most of it because Tom Core was explaining a lot and various other speakers. But maybe the one thing that I'll note in this slide is that we were established in 1987. Not a lot of people know that. Some people think it's about 8 years old because that's when we kind of came together as a consolidated grouping. But anyway, our mission has been similar. But I would say it's evolved from try to fund industry-relevant research, right? That's how it started, to all of a sudden it's industry and academic partnerships and jobs and entrepreneurship, which is a really cool thing. What we do, this is a busy slide, so I'm not going to read this slide, but essentially I'm going to summarize this entire slide with 3 words, okay? 1, we make connections between industry and academic resources. That's key, that's fundamental to OCE, and a lot of what you see here is a focus on entrepreneurship, which is the 3rd point, and that is true, and that is growing, but that fundamental remains as how do you bring the resources that are at our academic institutions, how do you bring some of that talent into the marketplace, either by helping or by creating new? So that's key. And then sandwiched in the middle of that, and those 2 sentences that I just said, is commercialization, this concept of commercialization. The commercialization, when I say that, I don't mean what industry does, I mean the intellectual property that is at institutions that come out and into the marketplace. And you do that one of two ways. You either connect to a company, the company commercializes, or you start something new. And then the final point that I want to make on this slide is the entrepreneurship. And I'm going to talk more about entrepreneurship, and you can see it's almost a theme here. Okay? This is an interesting slide. I could do a whole presentation just on this slide itself, but it's basically a point I want to make on this slide. And you can see this starts at idea and innovation, idea to income, rather. And actually, a lot of the theme of the conference, I could almost change this conference from discovery to, idea to income, or eye to eye, in essence, because discovery is only the beginning. And it's a continuum that keeps going. And that gold bar that you can see on this slide is where OCE plays. But let me tell you, the problem that we have today with commercialization, it's not really a problem as much as it's a challenge, is that gold bar just keeps getting longer and longer. So it's hard to know when to jump in and when to jump out. But we're here to do our part. But what's beautiful is that you now have not only industry at the bottom, but you have the Ontario Network of Entrepreneurship to kick into gear as well. Programs and services. Okay, we have a series of programs that are available in the areas to support all the areas I just talked about. We divide them up into kind of very basic collaborative commercialization. The reason we call it collaborative commercialization instead of collaborative research is because the end game is not to further research and discovery, it's actually to move towards commercialization. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about these programs as I go to the next chart, so I won't dwell on this one. Vouchers, you just heard vouchers. I'm going to say a few more words about that later. Our talent program is now really, you're not going to, talent is implicit, but you're going to hear the words entrepreneurship more than you are talent. So, and where it says social innovation, let me just think of that block as pilots, because social innovation was a pilot program for us. We're not stopping there. We have several new pilots. We're not in position to announce them, but they'll be coming up over the year. And at the end, when I give you the website, you stay in touch with that website and you'll see the new pilots. But probably when I'm standing up here doing this next year, you'll see a whole new sequence of programs. All right. The Industry Academic Commercialization Program, which is this acronym ISTP, has three fundamentals to it. The Collaborate to Commercialize, we call it C2C. That's our old collaborative research program, for those of you that remember an older program from ours. It's basically the same with much greater emphasis, however, on the ultimate end game of being commercialized product by industry. So more and more, everything I'm talking about is an industry driver. So we've gone from industry-driven to industry partnership to industry actually benefiting and jobs and revenues happening. TPS, our technical problem solving. Technical problem solving program was kind of a breakthrough program in the industry academic world, because it was the one program where there was funding available for industry academic collaboration that wasn't really about research. It was more about solving a problem, and it's a catalyst program, and it's been picked up by other partners, most notably NSERC with their Engage, which does introductory programs. So that program, we love it because it fits beautiful, because introductions can lead to where they're successful to problem solving down the road. So we think we have a good continuum going. As I discussed vouchers, we'll switch gears, and basically there will be a voucher available for that type of scenario as opposed to an award, but more on that in a second. And market readiness, that was our trademark name for developing intellectual properties along that continuum of the chart that I showed you before, so ultimately you get a revenue at the end of the day. And a bevy of other programs from our special energy, our experiential learning, which you see out there, our entrepreneurship fellowships, our Smart Start program, which was funded by FedDev, and just noting our high-performance computing. There's a high-performance computing section here, and part of that is because OCE is responsible to run the SOCIP program, which is the province's high-performance computing initiative with IBM and University of Toronto, where the Blue Gene Computer resides, and other university partners. I think there's 11 of them in total that are part of that consortium. And our job is to bring new SMEs into that. You saw some presentations earlier in the day with regards to the possibilities of advanced technology and related to high-performance computing. Social innovation was a pilot, and you'll see more from us with regards to probably social entrepreneurship. All right, let's talk about vouchers a little bit. So you heard this announcement, hot off the presses, and so I won't repeat it, and I'll try to draw on what we're doing going forward. But these are scheduled to be launched this summer, which is just around the corner. And I know somebody's going to ask a question like, what is the difference between a voucher and your existing awards? So let me just say that the voucher is a more aggressive industry-driven involvement. So because by receiving a voucher, the industry partner can exchange that voucher for services at the academic institution. So it sounds the same, but in principle, it's a bit more aggressively industry-driven, industry-focused, results-orientated. So, and it's kind of, for those of you who don't know voucher programs, it's a bit of a global standard, and it's the type of programs that work in other jurisdictions, and they were recommended in various studies reports, the Jenkins, famous Jenkins report, and also referred to in some provincial studies. Let me go on. Okay. So as I said, the voucher will be, the application is going to be the same in essence with a bit more of an industry niche to it. The company basically can redeem the voucher after they have their academic partners in much the same fashion as was before. 4 types of vouchers are available, and actually they kind of group into 2. So the top 2 are going to be fully launched this summer. That is the voucher for innovation and productivity. This helps companies focus on products, ideas, processes, and solving problems. Sounds a little bit like our TPS program because it is. Essentially, it's modeled. The TPS will cease to exist as this voucher gets launched. So this is in essence meant to evolve TPS to the next level. Our voucher for commercialization is meant to replace part of our market readiness, but not all of our market readiness. Think of it as replacing the front end of market readiness and some other things that were called proof of concepts, for those of you that from academic institutions that had separate funding for some of these things. Vouchers are available. Now, let me make one important distinguish, because I'm going to get asked this question as well. I figure if I can answer some questions, then I can say at the end I'm not prepared to take any questions, but other than that. But the voucher for commercialization is targeted for academic-based intellectual property concepts, ideas. It's really not meant, so it's meant for a startup, it's meant for the institution. It's really not meant for a small and medium-sized enterprise to apply for this. So the minister said today, he used language that it was available to companies. But it's available to startup companies. You could have put the word startup in front of his comments, all right? So just to be clear, that's about the only thing that when he said that, I went, whoops, because that's a little bit not quite. Unless he wants to start another program, I immediately went over to the deputy and said, if you'd like to add some dollars for that, we would be pleased to represent that program as well. So maybe I planted the seed for another program on that one. But for now, we're running the industry academic component of this voucher program. All right, the next 2 are, the last 2 vouchers are really pilot programs in essence. The voucher for e-business is meant to be, this will be delivered by our colleges. So the colleges are going to deliver this program. It's in development, so I don't have a design for you, but in essence, it's going to help a business do commerce e-style. And colleges are very good at that. They have some resources. We're just going to try to figure out the best way to deliver this so that it's efficient and industry can benefit. And we're confident that this would grow because we think it has traction and it has some precedents already set. So this allows it to grow and take it to a new level. Because I don't know if any of you have been, not to dwell on this e-commerce thing, but if you've ever tried to buy anything from a Canadian company, e-style, It's a lot more difficult than it is buying from an American company, e-style. And if you don't believe me, go ahead and try it. And we really need to catch up fast, all right? So I can stop getting hits from California companies on what I'm looking for and start getting hits from Toronto-based companies. Anyway, not to preach, and I promised I wouldn't editorialize, so I'll stop because people at the back will start to wave at me. Anyway, last one, Voucher for Industry Association. We call it R&D Challenge because this is the one that's probably a little bit more R&D-like with more and bigger research dollars available to it. It's a pilot, so we'll probably restrict to 3 or 4 associations that we're going to do partnerships with. But we're really excited about this one because we think it has some really great potentials. And we have new partners, new associations, and large groups of industry. And this is when we get excited because we could use words like, and language like transformative technologies as a possibility, which really opens up a broad door. So to have all this other stuff going on for the here and now, and entrepreneurship and development, and then to have this working in the background to go back to that kind of the old OCE, what's next theme is an exciting thing for us. So anyway, there you go. So this program, they're going to be developed. We've been working hard on this, so this is not brand new. So we're ready to go. When a lot of times you'll say, well, there's no way you're going to be ready to launch. You say this summer, but it's just not going to happen because we know, no, we've had this ready. We are ready to push play, and we'll get language out on this soon. And other things that we're doing, we're making changes to our programs. So for those of you who are familiar and have applied or looked at our website, things are going to get a lot easier for us to deal with, and we're going to try to do much more one-stop shopping with all of our partner organizations, including IRAP, who you just heard from Manny here. And so we have NSERC as a partner, IRAP as a partner, we have Connect Canada as a partner, and you're going to hear from Connect Canada, I think, right after me. So that's really exciting for us because one of the things about OCE, and I didn't mention it, but it is on that first slide that was kind of wordy, but I will say it again. OCE does nothing in isolation. Everything we do is with partners, and we're very proud of that. And we're taking those partnerships to a whole new level, and we're very excited about that as well. And the other thing is we're trying to respond to industry which says, would you please make it easier to do business with? And so we're trying to do that and navigate through this complex system of innovation that's available in Ontario and simplify things so that it can be better. And not to be outdone with our entrepreneurship programs, but our entrepreneurship will continue with our Martin Walmsley Fellowship and other entrepreneurial fellowships, along with our experiential learning programs and benefits. So there's our website where everything is going to be. I encourage you to go there. Very soon after discovery, it will be updated to reflect everything I just said. Our engagement strategy remains as it had been, fully committed to regional deployment. These are all, I guess I'm jumping ahead. This is how our partners work. I want to jump to the engagement because I'm running short of time here. So our engagement strategy, these are all the people that are part of my team in terms of business development at OCE. So I'm very proud of all these people. They're here to service our client needs, and they are located in the field where our clients are, as opposed to various offices. They're also very close to our research institutions, and in all of our partner universities, we are one-to-one with BD representatives, and with all of our regional innovation centers, we are also one-to-one. So the system is trying to connect better as part of the one, and we're trying to provide leadership in terms of the industry academic components of the Ontario Network of Entrepreneurship. And if you want to find your OCEBD, again, it's on our website, and you just type in where you are, and they'll take you to somebody's name that's not mine. So that's good. But I'm also available to you if you can track me down. Just want to finish off with some highlights. So again, I could give you a success story on all these, and I show this first because these are companies that you know, and we have projects recently completed this year with all of these companies, and in some way in their technologies, or vehicles, products, processes, there's a little bit of knowledge somewhere in there that came from a collaborative scenario through OCE and an academic institution in your province. These are some of the spin-off companies that we've recently graduated, and some of these guys you saw in the videos. And we hope that these guys will be on the previous page doing collaborative projects, but this time as multi-million-dollar corporations as the previous list. So that's where we're trying to get to. And with that, I will end my presentation and thank you for your attention. Do I have time for any questions? I do. Damn, I thought I would go long enough so that there would be no questions. Question, yes, sir.
In the past, when someone has applied for a TPS, usually it was the principal investigator at the academic institution who filled out the application in collaboration with the industrial partner.
Yes.
And I'm wondering now whether this new voucher program means either that the academic partner won't be involved or that the academic partner is more or less disenfranchised after the voucher is granted.
Good question. The answer is no. It'll be a similar process to the TPS. You are correct, though, that in the Alberta model, for example, the industry partner applies for the voucher and then goes and searches for the resource. When we were reviewing the voucher program, that was a real problem, and that was a problem that almost canceled the program in Alberta. So what we did, we said, no, if it's, it's not broke the way it is, so let's keep it the same. So the industrial partner must source out an academic resource first and then collaborate together on the proposal and apply. And it'll be very similar the way it is now, where the academic will probably write the proposal in collaboration with his industrial partner and apply that way. So that's the good news. The other good news, by the way, is that actually the accounting process for the university will actually be easier. So because it'll be vouchered, it'll be like awarded, it'll be a lot more streamlined. So we hope that there'll be a productivity improvement that way. Yeah. Anything else? Yes, sir. When do I expect the
technical problem solid to be closed and completely replaced by the vouchers, by the first type of voucher?
I'm going to say by the end of June. Well, wait a minute, I panicked somebody. Okay, here we go.
So to clarify,
This is me being corrected by someone.
the transition will be seamless. So for example, if you're applying for TPSs right now, don't worry. They will
Yeah, don't worry.
automatically be transitioned into vouchers. You won't feel any pain at all.
Yeah.
Actually, you will get add-ons and benefits. So if you're working on a TPS voucher right now or on a TPS, don't worry. Continue to
Yeah,
work
that's
on
true.
it. If you are interested in using the TPS program after we've launched vouchers and TPS is no longer available, don't worry. You can do exactly the same things using vouchers that you could do with TPS. So from the perspective of the applicant, you're not going to feel anything.
Yeah, don't
Okay?
worry. If anything changes, it'll be your award letter will read differently. Okay? And there might be a small difference for the accounting office. Okay? Does that remind you at all as when everybody's had this experience, when you say something and your wife jumps up and says, he didn't mean that, he meant this, right? So it's okay. I can take it because there's not a guy here that hasn't had that happen to him. All right, that's great. Thanks for your time, everybody. Enjoy the rest of Discovery.
Many thanks to Bob for taking the time to present to us this afternoon. We're going to continue with our presentations, and our next session is going to be from Connect Canada in just a few minutes. And just a kind reminder that when you have questions, please walk up to the microphone so everyone can hear the question. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our next Innovation Partner presentation from Connect Canada. Here to present today is Raed, Kadri, who is the Business Development Officer at Auto 21. The Connect Canada program is a national internship program that links Canadian companies with graduate students and postdoctoral fellows for research placements. Companies receive a cost-effective way to conduct R&D, while interns gain relevant industry experience that enhances their graduate studies. If you have any questions, there will be an opportunity at the end of the presentations to ask the questions. And once again, please use the microphone so everyone can hear the questions. Please welcome Raed, Kadri.
Hello, everybody. Hi, how are you? Thank you for coming. I want to start off by thanking the Ontario Centres of Excellence for sharing this wonderful conference with their innovation partners and allowing us to display our programs also, and it's just a sense of the collaboration that Ontario Centres of Excellence puts forward to everybody in the innovation sphere. So, as Claudia mentioned, Connect Canada. I don't know how this slide thing works. Is it this? Okay, good. Not used to the camera, it's making me nervous. So, as Claudia mentioned, Connect Canada is managed by the Auto 21 and funded by the Network Centres of Excellence. And it's a national internship program that funds graduate level internships, so master's, PhD, master's, PhD, or postdoctoral fellows at any institution in Canada, any eligible institution, so an institution that's able to receive Tri-Council funding. So what the program does is brings industry and academia together to work on in a partnership for better innovation, where the graduate student will do a between 4 to 6 month research and development internship at the company site. A minimum 50% of their time needs to be spent at the company site. 25% back at their institution, and there's a 25% float between that period between 4 to 6 months. So there's some flexibility in the time periods that you can have the internship for, but there is a specific requirement that there a large component be at the industry partner site, which is very important to the student's development and hopefully their career forward. So Connect Canada is open to all disciplines, master's, PhD, postdocs, but in any discipline. So it's not strictly STEM students, it could be MBA students, it could be social science students, and we have funded projects with those various students working with the industry to create some knowledge for that industrial partner. And it's also open to all sectors, and we've used every sector. As long as the company is for-profit and operating in Canada, they're eligible to take part in our program. So just a quick about Connect Canada's value proposition, which is very important. Why do stakeholders want to take part in our program? So it's Canada-wide. We do a lot of stuff in Ontario, but it is open to all of Canada. It's non-sector specific, so it allows the opportunity to other sectors to take advantage of the program. And we fund in aerospace and health and life sciences and various sectors, environment. It's cost effective. So for $5,000 from the industrial partner, Connect Canada will match $5,000. And that $10,000 chunk of money will go to pay the graduate student. So it'll be administered to the university for the pay to the graduate student throughout the course of that internship period with the company. So it's a very, very good way for companies to get some R&D done at a low cost, as well as get a good trial run and a good look at a potential hire at the end of the day, and make a partnership with a university. So learn more about how a university can help them. So it's very cost effective for industry. Industry loves it. Often we don't have any problems with them wanting to commit $5,000 to take advantage of this, because they are getting a lot. They're getting a HQP, a highly qualified person. They're getting a researcher behind them, somebody who's an expert in whatever field they're researching in. And they're getting access to potential infrastructure at a university, which they don't want to purchase, but they could utilize further. And then the 4 to 6 month interview is always a big thing for them. It's like a 4 to 6 month interview with a graduate student and a potential hire. And it takes me on to the next thing, relationship building. So all stakeholders build a relationship here. Industry builds a relationship with potential hire, a student, a graduate student, somebody who can help them in their company. They build a relationship with a researcher. So once that student's graduated, moved on, hopefully working for the company, but if not, now has the opportunity to work for another company because they have experience. the company also gets the opportunity to meet somebody at a university who does the same stuff that they do, the researcher, and hopefully will continue to build and grow a relationship. So it's a very cost-effective way to take advantage of, or to do that first step to a university. And so a lot of companies take it that way. And then for the student, like I said, they've built a relationship with an industrial partner. They've got now somebody who will give them a reference on, for the next job, and they've also, they've learned what it's like to be in industry. So they're sitting in a university, now they've gone out to industry, and so they've built those skills. And so that's very important to the student. And then the academic supervisor who's backing up the student, who's advising the student, now also gets the opportunity to in a very subtle way, meet somebody new to work with in the future. So it's a win-win for all partners involved in the program. And so it's basically to leverage academia's brain power to solve industry's problems, right? And that's what's going on. So just a quick roundabout here of this is kind of the broad sectors that Connect Canada is for. But if the company is for profit and they're looking at utilizing the program, we're more than willing to talk to them about how they can utilize the program. But as you can see, they're kind of there, and we've funded in every single one of these sectors quite a bit. So just really quickly, economical for the stakeholders. It's very easy to use, and it's very cost effective for the industry partner, and as well as the student who's getting some money out of this. Quick turnaround. Often we approve these in less than 2 weeks, the Connect Canada proposals, when it comes to us, in a package which we help to create with the student and all the other stakeholders. But the turnaround time is very quick because we realize the importance for industry to get these things moving. Once industry has made a commitment, they need to move. It's very important because budgets get shifted. So we really push on a quick turnaround for our partners. IP protection, what that means is Connect Canada, like Auto 21, does not put their hands in the IP. It's between the industry partner and the academics to talk about how they want to handle that. If need be to facilitate, we will do that. But in my experience, we haven't had any issues. So it goes very well. And a lot of universities just like the opportunity to have some industry experience for their graduate students. Flexible between 4 to 6 months. And so it's easy to use there, and however you distribute your 50% of the time is okay as long as you give us a plan and your research milestones. And recruitment, like I said, it's a great way to recruit. A lot of the aerospace industry utilizes this program to build their pipeline and to hire their future researchers within their industry. So I'm just going to go over it real quick, between 4 to 6 months. Now what we've done is we've created a database. And so what that allows is there are a lot of partners who come to us with already put together projects, but then there's a lot of industry partners who say, this is a fantastic program, but we don't know who to talk to at universities. Can you help us? So they're able to give us a 300-word executive summary, and we'll put it on our database where we encourage students and academics to register and take a look at the opportunities and apply directly to the industry partner, and so that the industry partner can have a pool of candidates from which they can look through. So we use that database to help make those connections and also to help put together the proposals and move them through the system very quickly. Another thing about Connect Canada, which is very important. So Connect Canada, with Connect Canada, you're able to leverage, it's a federal program, so you're able to take the industry partner funds and leverage it with provincial funds. So we've been working very closely with the Ontario Centres of Excellence, as Bob maybe mentioned a little bit earlier, to co-fund a lot of projects. And we found that a lot of the people who take advantage of it have found a lot of value in that. And we've made the system very easy to use in a streamlined process in order to make it a very attractive program to utilize, and utilizing both our programs to help create value for the partners. So it's a $5,000 investment. The Connect Canada website. I'm just going to go over a couple of projects. I will outline the bottom three. Those are projects that we've co-funded with the Ontario Centres of Excellence. We're working very well with them, and like I said, I think that relationship will grow, and people will continue to utilize both our programs further. So just quickly, because I know I'm probably out of time. So Connect Canada internships, so that's our tagline here, providing industry and academia the leverage to build dynamic partnerships and creative solutions. So I guess the theme is partnerships, and I think we're all working well in that sphere. I'll get my contact information right here. I've got some business cards in my pocket, and that's it. Thank you.
after the Connect program, can you coordinate with NSERC?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the hopes, I think, is to grow the relationship in one way or form. And like I said, I think Bob announced that there's a few people who, there's a few programs that are kind of in the sphere there. And so, yeah, the hopes is to make it bigger. So, but it wouldn't be the same cash contribution. It would hope that the relationship would have been built properly, that something bigger is going to come about, right?
Yeah, it's just some of the projects take a long time, so that they might then apply for this and then go for NRC IRAP assistance or something else.
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So yeah, the hopes is that it goes on to bigger and better things, hopefully, the relationship. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for coming, and ask Claudia any questions you have for me.
Thank you very much, Raed, for your presentation. Our next presentation this afternoon will be from Canada's Advanced Research and Innovation Network, and we'll begin in just a few minutes. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our next Innovation Partner presentation this afternoon, Canada's Advanced Research and Innovation Network, more commonly known as CANARIE. Peter Wilenius is the Vice President of Business Development at CANARIE. CANARIE designs, delivers, and drives the adoption of digital infrastructure for Canada's research and education communities. CANARIE keeps Canada at the forefront of digital research and innovation, fundamental to a vibrant digital economy. Please join me in welcoming Peter to Discovery.
Thanks very much. Hi, folks. It's a pleasure to be here today. What I really want to talk to you today about is, many of you may know about CANARIE in terms of providing connectivity to research and education across Canada. The organization has existed for 20 years. We have a long track record of innovating network developments to support research and innovation, not only in Canada but around the globe. Today we operate a 19,000-kilometer fiber optic network. We partner with each of the provincial regional networks to connect every post-secondary institution and government lab to enable what is increasingly data-intensive research. To give you an example, the amount of data that flows across the CANARIE network is in the order of petabytes on a quarterly basis that just can't happen with a commercial internet connection. So we're enabling big science experiments, social sciences and humanities research on a scale that is increasing on an annual rate of 50 to 70% faster than growth of data on the internet. So the core mandate has always been operation of the network. And we've begun in the past few years building tool sets on top of that, software development to help researchers store, analyze, visualize the data to get better outcomes and accelerate their research. What I want to talk to you today about is something called DARE, Digital Accelerator for Research and Innovation, which is a bit of a transition for CANARIE, and we're using the network to provide a cloud computing infrastructure to support small business innovation. So we are supported by Industry Canada. The infrastructure has an investment cumulative over 20 years of roughly $500 million. So we're using this infrastructure to enable small businesses to develop new ICT solutions to advance Canada's competitiveness globally in terms of ICT contribution, as to apply those technologies into the private sector itself. So really we want to talk a little bit about, what is cloud computing and what's the DARE service. There's a lot of talk about cloud computing today. In essence, it is infrastructure on demand, computing, storage, and network that exists in a data center that is accessible on a pay-as-you-go basis. It's highly scalable, it's very flexible, and it's provisionable. And very good examples of software as a service applications that use cloud computing today are Gmail, Dropbox, Netflix. And the real power in cloud computing technology is that scalability and provisioning. Netflix supports literally millions of users now on a daily basis, and you would think that they must have a massive infrastructure to support those customers. The power of it lies in cloud computing. So I'm at home, I'm watching a movie, I click play, I select a virtual machine seamlessly, nobody really knows about it, the movie starts streaming. I turn the movie off, that turns down. So as a business, you have a lot of control in the elasticity and the flexibility of your network, which is in very important, very large scale applications, but also it's very important for small businesses. Why? Well, it provides flexibility. So small businesses need the ability to grow from very small, serving a few customers, to hopefully very large, serving hundreds or thousands or millions of customers. They don't often have capital resources to invest in infrastructure, so cloud is very CapEx friendly. It increases competitiveness by evening the playing field. Because of that CapEx investment, they can forego that investment, use the resources to build their business, and compete with much larger scaled and well-funded competitors. IT costs are reduced because you're paying for the service that's provided by the infrastructure provider, and it's very environmentally friendly because these folks that are running the infrastructure invest a lot in very much energy efficient infrastructure. It's very centralized. It leverages the common infrastructure to provide a much more scalable and energy efficient infrastructure compared to if you were investing it. So why are we talking about this in terms of small business? Well, the DARE program is a cloud incubator accelerator. It provides access to this infrastructure that's hosted on the CANARIE network at very heavily subsidized or free rates. So we provide a basic amount of cloud infrastructure that small businesses can use to develop, test, and demonstrate new cloud-based applications for a one-year basis for free for a base level of resource for 4 cores, which is essential to or equivalent to 4 very high-powered computer servers and the associated storage and networking to go with it. Each incremental core above that is a very nominal charge, so that it ends up being the equivalent of a 90% reduction to commercial rates. And many in the audience may say, well, are you competing, undercutting the private sector? No, the intent is to provide a kickstart to small businesses to enable them to get off the ground, to prove their concept in terms of technology. They're always pre-revenue. They're not really viable customers yet to the commercial cloud providers, so we're hoping that they can navigate the waters, sort out their business plans, their technology models, and be in a better position to take this product to market and create value for the commercial cloud and value for the ICT industry in Canada. So in terms of what does it do for the individual innovator, well, it provides this knowledge of there really is a transformative effect to cloud. Because of the small business benefits I talked earlier, it often changes the business model. Folks that may be new to it may be thinking, I'm going to build a bunch of servers and I'm going to put them in a closet in my building, and I'm going to maintain all this infrastructure. So you start investing in people and overhead and equipment, and you lose the agility to grow with the business. You lose the agility in terms of being able to put money into sales and marketing and product development, which will ultimately be more strategically used than funding infrastructure in your building. It allows you to very quickly validate a new product or service concept. It gives you a feeling for the technology. It allows you to transform and work out your business model, and then hopefully accelerate your time to market and provide better outcomes in terms of the innovation cycle. So we've launched the project in January and now have roughly 50 users in a very short period of time, pretty much across Canada. So it's been very well received. The applications range from gaming to IT security, to network monitoring, to physical infrastructure monitoring, pretty much anything you can think of in terms of a web application where you're looking to provide your application on a mobile device, on a computer, and enable anywhere, anytime access to data is supported by the cloud. And in terms of the value for the entrepreneurs themselves, as I say, use of scarce resources, the ability to accelerate time to market, transforming their business models. So we've got some very good examples of success stories in Ontario and around Canada that have literally changed the way that they look at how they're taking products and services to market. So that's a very quick overview of CANARIE and the DARE program. Lots more available on the website. The application process is very simple. It's all done online, 15-minute process, and we've taken on roughly 90% of the applicants are admitted to the program. I should say that the intent is to give you the access for a year as an innovator. So we're encouraging all SMEs and entrepreneurs out there who may have a cloud application to certainly sign up. If you're a funder, you're an incubator, or you're an accelerator, we'd love to talk to you as well, because we think that there's good leverage for the programs that you're offering in being able to stack these up and provide better outcomes for Ontario SMEs. So with that, I'll open it up to questions. Yes, ma'am. We are. We see these organizations as channel to market. You know, as I said, the program has only been in existence since January. Most of the traction to date's been with NRC IRAP, but we're starting to build relationships with all of the incubators and accelerators, and welcome any inquiries, because we think that there's a really good model in terms of combining business advisory services with the technology and the go-to-market plans, because it's not just about providing technology, it's about creating a strategy of how to build a business. So welcome those conversations. That's it. Thank you very much, folks.
I'm happy to introduce to you our final innovation partner presentation this afternoon, International Science and Technology Partnerships Canada, or ISTPCanada, as we know them. Bharat Rudra is the country manager for India and Brazil, and he will be giving the presentation for ISTP Canada. ISTP Canada facilitates the creation of global technology partnerships that open new markets and trade doors for Canadian companies. ISTP Canada develops and implements R&D collaboration programs under science and technology cooperation agreements between Canada and 3 key trade partners, Brazil, China, and India. If you have any questions, there'll be an opportunity to ask them at the end of the presentation. And once again, please use the microphone. Please join me in welcoming Bharat to Discovery.
Thank you very much. Last year I was the last presenter as well, and I'm really happy to see that it's almost 300% more participation this year. This is great, but I can assure you, if you do have interest in international collaboration and international funding, we are the one actually give money. So it's hopefully it'll be of interest to you. So ISTP Canada, short for International Science and Technology Partnerships Canada, is an arm's length organization funded by federal government, DFATE, and provincial governments to help do collaboration between Canada and the 4 partner countries, India, China, Brazil, and Israel. As you see in the presentation there, Brazil, India, and China are handled by ISTP Canada, and Israel is handled by our parent organization, which is called CERDIF, Canada Israel Industrial Research and Development Foundation. Big long names, but for all practical reasons, you can consider it as a one organization. So what do? We develop R&D collaboration programs under the S&T cooperation agreement that Government of Canada has signed with these 4 countries. What does that mean? Anybody can start collaboration with any country they want. The differentiator here is that under this collaboration, Government of, oh, thank you, 2 more, wait. Thank you. I've been doing this all day, marketing to people for my session here. So the differentiator here is that under this S&T collaboration, the foreign governments are participating in this collaboration, and both sides are putting funding money to help companies to do just joint collaboration. So that's a differentiator under this S&T agreement. So what do? We essentially do 2 things. We facilitate new R&D partnerships between Canadian companies and their research organization and with their counterparts in these 4 countries. So these normally takes a form of technology matchmaking between the companies, which a lot of other organizations are doing as well. But we focus on key sectors that are identified by Canada and the partner countries as a priority sector. So that's a differentiator there. And we do something else called partnership development activities, which are very focused activities to bring industry and academics together in joint collaborations. So that's probably 15 to 20% of the work that we do there. But 80% of the work we do is we actually fund Canadian companies that are working in collaboration with their counterparts in the 4 countries. And I will give you more details on that. So where does our funding comes from? It comes from mostly from a federal government, but it also comes from a provincial governments, Ontario government, British Columbia, and Alberta. Besides working with the provincial and federal organizations, we also work very closely with the federally funded or federally or provincially funded organizations. For example, NSERC. NSERC and CIH are our key partners, and I'll explain to you how they participate in this funding and how they enhance the existing collaboration between the companies in Canada and in the partner countries and take them forward. We also work with a provincial organization. IRAP is another organization that we work very closely with. And Ontario Centres of Excellence, the host of this event, and my previous employer, we work very closely with the OCE as well. So a quick look at the program. As I mentioned, there's 2 things we do: collaborative R&D projects. 80% of the work we do is in the collaborative R&D projects, and 20% is more on the partnership development activities. So who are the eligible applicants for us? Canadian companies. Our funding can only go to Canadian companies. However, we truly encourage the participation of academia, and we have established a mechanism along with NSERC and CIHR and others so that the academics can also get funded in the projects. We do encourage the participation of government institutes, research organizations, and so on, but our funding cannot go to these organizations. They are considered as a great partner because all the research that is done with the government money in these organizations that can be leveraged by the companies, and we want to encourage that. So while we work with the partner countries, we truly adopt a bilateral approach, which means from an applicant or a Canadian company perspective, it looks a seamless process. It's a joint and synchronized application process. We host a joint call for proposals. Even the evaluation mechanism is in parallel and it's joint. It's transparent to you. So you don't have to put 2 applications. Your partner company in the partner country does not have to submit a separate. It's the same application that gets evaluated on the same criteria by 2 organizations. Even though there's a difference in evaluation procedures in India and in Canada, however, the final decision is made by the 2 organizations, that is ISTPCanada and its partner organization, and you have to have a yes-yes decision from both sides to be funded. It doesn't mean that a yes-no decision cannot change to yes-yes, but both sides have to agree that it's a good project to be funded. So here's a bit about the criteria, and I'll come back and explain because the audience is getting bigger, but I can explain to you exactly how the project looks like. So what do you have to have in a criteria? Minimum, you have to have one Canadian company. I said Brazilian here, but it should be for any 4 countries. And the company must be a lead in Canada and in the partner country. Participation of academia and exchange of young researchers, I said earlier, is encouraged. So what does a typical project look like? It should be a project that has a scientific merit and a degree of innovation inherited in the product or the process that's being proposed. Means that you're working on something. It could be risky, where this fund can take risk, but it should be truly innovative and lead to a potential major returns at the end of the project. Whatever is being proposed, it should address the market need and the market and leverage on the market opportunities out there. Any process or product that's being proposed, the proponents must have the capacity themselves to complete the project and eventually the commercialization that comes out of it. What it means is that the proponents must have the technical capabilities, capacity, and the resources to do the commercialization after the project finish. Yes, we do support until the project ends, but what happens after that, you must have the capability. Of course, everything that we do, it should be for the benefits of both countries. It should show some sort of equality in benefits, that both sides are benefiting from it, because both sides are putting equal effort into it and equal kind of funds as well. For the projects where the academics are involved, we work with the NSERC, so we want to make sure that the CRD, which is Collaborative Research and Development Program, it falls under that criteria. Basically, it is whatever ISTP Canada does. It's exact same criteria, what you see here, except that the training of the highly qualified personnel, which is training of master's, PhD students, should be very clearly defined in there. So even with our partners, such as NSERC, it's the same application, one process, and one decision. So here's a bit about the application process. So the way it works is that we release a call for proposal, and we accept expressions of interest. We look for the companies that are best fit to be able to be successful. So we look for from two perspectives. One is that companies do not, small and medium enterprises do not invest or waste their time, in fact, if it's not going to be a good fit. So they should know early in the process. The second, which is more important, is that if they're a good fit company, we can guide them and we can help them to prepare a good proposal that could lead to a success. Of course, for the expressions of interest and for the full proposals, there's a parallel evaluation process on both sides. And as I mentioned earlier, there has to be unanimous decision on both sides to fund. A little bit about partnership development activities. These are the focused activities. So, for example, when we talk about delegation, it's not just a generic delegation, say in clean tech. It has to be very focused on a priority sector that is a priority to Canada and to the partner country. For example, recently we've done a couple of missions. One is in a smart grid, and other one is in a water. Some of you probably already know that water is a key priority for Canada. Hundreds of millions of dollars has been put into this technology. We have thousands of companies in Canada. So leveraging that technological strengths and making sure that we can work with the partner countries and bring benefits to both sides. So it's a very focused approach as opposed to being a generic approach. Sometimes it takes a form of roundtables and workshops and so on, but all falls into same mechanism. What we do look out of it, of course, we look for that some of the companies, some of the matches that we have done that will lead to a very good innovative projects so that we can fund. But that's not the only thing. Besides us funding, we also look for that there potentially could be other mechanisms of funding that we could leverage jointly so that we can help the companies. So what are the upcoming opportunities? In the coming months, 2 to 3 months, we will be launching a call for proposal with Brazil and with oh my God, too many mistakes. One is with Brazil, another one is with India. So the Brazil, we have 5 partners. I know these acronyms doesn't make any sense to you, but I'll tell you what it means. So our partners mostly in Brazil is a government of Sao Paulo, government of Minas Gerais, government of Rio de Janeiro, Pernambuco, and CNPq is a Brazilian organization that's a Brazil-wide. So they are our partner. They are the funding partners that will fund the companies in their provinces. What it means is that when we fund in Canada, anywhere in Canada, your partner company has to come from one of these provinces. Which provinces we will go with in the next call is still to be determined. That negotiation still has to happen. In India, sorry, the next one should have said India's cut and paste there. Our partners are 2 key partners, and they are similar to ISTP Canada. They can fund all across India. One is the Department of Science and Technology, and one is a Department of Biotechnology. And there's an organization called Global Innovation Technology Alliance. It's just a technicality for you. For all practical reasons, you can assume that they're funded by these 2 organizations. As the name represents, Department of Biotechnology funds everything related to biotechnology, life sciences and medical devices, and Department of Science and Technology funds anything else but biotechnology. And before I conclude my presentation, I'd just like to give you an example of a typical project, how the typical project looks like. There's a company in Canada, and say there's a company in Brazil. They have a complementary but very strong technological strengths on both sides. Bringing them together, they do have some gaps as well. Bringing them together, it turns into a very truly innovative product that could lead to a commercialization. It has a much better chances by coming together than being alone. And while doing that, not only is it technological strengths, it's also market strengths. Jointly, they can either go into Canadian market or say Brazilian market. But more importantly, we're not confined to these two markets. Jointly, they could decide to go to Africa, for example. Africa could be their market. So jointly, two companies coming together, tackling an industry need, a market need, and having a true commercialization plan in place. It doesn't mean that it commercialized or not, but you have to have a plan in place. However, even though the two companies are engaged, we do encourage the participation of academia. ISTPCanada will fund the company, and our partner NSERC and CIHR in the case of life sciences, they will fund the academic component of the project. It's only a single application process, single decision making. We work jointly as a partner in funding these collaborations. So what kind of funding is available? ISTPCanada can put up to $600,000. It depends on a call for proposal, call to call, how long the time we have for the projects. For example, if it's a 3-year project, we can put up to $600,000 per project per company. However, this funding has to be matched by the company in Canada. That means if we are putting $600,000 into a Canadian project, the Canadian company has to put $600,000 into the project as well. That means the value of the project in Canada is $1.2 million. This $1.2 million has to be matched by our funding agencies, partner funding agencies, and the companies, say, in India. It does not have to be exactly $600,000 each, but it has to be equivalence in effort. Means that the work they do, it should be equivalent to what we do for $1.2 million in Canada, because India is a lot cheaper to do the same work that we do in Canada. Altogether, once we fund the project, the total value of the R&D that's funded is $2.4 million. It's a substantial amount of money to do an R&D leading to a prototype. We do not fund marketing, sales, and other effort. We fund R&D leading to a prototype. So that's how a typical project would look like. I won't go into the technological or sector details because we have several sectors, different sectors with each country. But it's quite wide. For example, ICT is all with both countries, and ICT by default takes 80%. Either it's in the healthcare, or it's in the oceans technology, or it's in the biotechnology. To get more information, you can sign up for ISTPCanada Informer. It's basically a sign-up sheet, and you will get all the details on our upcoming calls for proposals. And feel free to call me. Anytime, call me, contact me, and I'll be more than happy to help you. We are looking for good Canadian companies who can leverage the resources that we have and our partners in the partner countries. Thank you for your time. Yes, please go ahead.
So often it's very expensive, the legal costs, when you're engaging in such agreements. Does ISTP cover any legal costs?
This is in the preparation of the agreement?
Yeah.
First of all, in our experience, all the projects that we've funded over the last 7 years, it's not been that complicated. I'll give you an example of that. First of all, ISTPCanada doesn't take a cut into this IP. So we leave it to the companies to decide how they share their IP. So your legal agreement will be done by your legal counsel, whom you've been working with probably over the years anyway. And the way typical IP agreement would look like, there has to be understanding with the academic partner, if there is one in Canada, how the IP will flow from academic partner to the company, which is a standard agreements in all academic institutions.
I'm not worried about Canada. I'm worried about China and Brazil.
So good question. Are you worried about protecting your IP? or you're worried about sharing your IP?
I actually call upon clients who are worried about both, and they find those challenges especially with Brazil. And so I just wondered if there are lawyers available, and often they're ending up fighting IP issues in Brazil, and it's not recognized, and all this type of thing.
That's a good question, actually, a good point as well. So if you notice that from the beginning to end, I've been keep saying partnerships, partnerships, and partnerships. So if you have a good partner in Brazil, you will rely on their capabilities because they are equal partner in the IP. Sitting in Canada, I can understand that it's very difficult to protect the IP. If you have a good, strong enough partner in Brazil, they will be your protector because you have a joint IP. This is not just a single IP. That's why everything we fund, it is funded. So the one purpose, of course, we're looking at the technical capabilities and technical strengths to bring in the project, but more importantly, we're bringing their market knowledge, market strengths, and beyond that is the business culture. So they are acquainted to that culture. They will be your supporter and partner. I haven't answered your question, but if yes, up to some point you could use the ISTPCanada. Yes, some of it, and more importantly, if you're protecting your IP with the patents, yes, we do allow provisional patents and other patents that are coming out of this technology to be filed. Yes, that's a straight answer, but I wanted to give you the full spectrum of possibilities. Any other question? Thank you. I've never been so clear in my life. Thank you for coming.
I'd like to thank Raed for being our last presenter this afternoon, and I want to thank all of our presenters today for taking the time to enlighten us on the many programs and organizations that are available to work with you and to drive innovation forward in Ontario. And thank you very much to yourselves for joining us for Discovery this year. Thank you.